Based on H.P. Lovecraft's, get ready to dive into horror and mystery with Mythos Tales by 8th Summit.
Hey, this is the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at Mythos Tales, and this one comes to us from 8th Summit. So they did a Kickstarter on this one, and it really follows that H.P. Lovecraft feel and theme that you're going to get in games like Arkham Horror and Elder Sign. There's tons of this type of H.P. Lovecraft stuff out there. But this one's a really, really cool story-driven game. So a little bit of details on this one. This is from Hal Ecklis, I believe is how they pronounce the name, and Will Kenyon. It's ages 14 plus, and 1 to 8 players, and 1 to 1.5 hours per case that you're going to be solving. One thing that's really cool about these story-driven games is you can solo them. You'll notice we had 1 to 8 players. So you can play this upwards to 8 people in a gaming group, which is a ton of fun of having that many people. I've never played this with that many people at once. But being able to play this with 8 people all working together trying to collaboratively solve these mysteries or these cases, as they call them. Or you can sit down and you can take this with you. You can travel. If you wanted to take this on a business trip or a personal trip and just play yourself, you could. No problem. You don't need the full, you don't have to technically put it in a box like this. You can just take all the components out and travel with them. But, I really like these story-driven games, and that's why for this review, I'm going to give you a little detail about what the game is about. We're going to read some stuff that's on this box. I'm going to open the box up. I'm going to show you the components of what you're going to get in this package, but I'm not going to go through the mysteries and go through the gameplay in it. And I don't want to do that because I don't want to ruin the case and the mystery for you guys that are gonna go through and are gonna play this game, because as you solve these mysteries, after you solve them, you kind of solve them, right? I mean, you could potentially go back. Let's say it's been a while, you haven't played in a while, you don't remember exactly the most efficient way to solve the case, and we'll talk about that because it's got a very, very interesting way of doing the scoring of these cases. You might go back later and play through, but you're probably not going to play case 1, play case 2, case 3, and then go back and play case 1 again, unless you're playing with like maybe some friends and you don't give away the actual best way to solve the case or the answer. Let's get right into the thought of how this particular story-driven game plays out. A lot of them you'll play the case, you'll play the story, and you either solve the problem at hand or you don't. And it's usually based on some type of doom track counter, some type of timer. You have to do it within a certain, constraint. Where this one, just play the game essentially until you solve the case. But then you're going to go back, and at the very end of each one of these cases, you're going to go back and it's going to tell you the most efficient way of solving the case. And that's what I really like about this one, because not only do you have newspaper clippings and different locations and what might be at those locations, and the core story and mystery that you're working through all these things trying to determine what's the next step, what are we missing, who did it. You have to do it in a very logical, efficient way. So what I like about that is if you can kind of think of a sort of a tree-based structure, you can solve the mystery. You can get from point A to point B, right, from start to end, multiple different ways, different paths. But there is, quote unquote, a most efficient path of getting from start to finish. And that's going to be in the book after you get done with each one of the cases. It's going to lay that out. It's going to say, well, you should have went from point A to point B to point C to point D. When you were exposed with this type of evidence, you should have used it in this way. And you're going to kind of be scored. So you're going to keep a track as you go through this mystery in how you are solving it and how you're thinking through it. And at the end, you're going to score yourself based on what the book says is the optimal and most efficient way of solving the mystery. So the quickest way of solving the mystery. That was one component that they built into this one from a scoring mechanic that may exist in other story-driven games, not the ones that I've played. I haven't seen a scoring tactic like that in story-driven games before. So this is the first one I've played that really has that, and I really like that way. So it's less about just trying to rush through, and it's more about thinking what's the most efficient way to get through the mystery. And I absolutely love that. I mean, that fits into my, I would say, professional background. So I love the fact that that's the way that the scoring works on this particular story-driven game. There are 8 cases that are built in, or 8 mysteries you have to solve. And they do kind of build upon one another that are in this set, the retail set. This is actually the Kickstarter version. So I believe it has 10 cases that are built into this one. I'll read just a couple of the names of those cases. So A Grain of Evil, Flesh and Blood, The King Cometh, The Slumbering Solace. You can see they each have kind of a very enticing sort of name. You know you're going to get into some deep evil that you're going to have to conflict with and fight, as you would as a part of any type of H.P. Lovecraft series. That's definitely a horror-based game, but I wouldn't say it's so over the top that teenagers, it says 14 plus on the age, wouldn't be able to play and would walk away and be have nightmares or whatever. I mean, it's light horror, I would say. And as you're kind of moderating and reading through, you could take out some wording and some sentences if you wanted to, based on the level of age of kids that you had playing. So maybe it wouldn't be as scary for them. So I'll read here what we have on the back of the box. I think it gives a good cue up to what you're going to experience in the game. Welcome to H.P. Lovecraft's Arkham, Massachusetts. You are an investigator working alongside Miskatonic University librarian Professor Henry Armitage. And that's a character that's been used in many other H.P. Lovecraft series and games. Tasked with unraveling bizarre mysteries inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft, you have at your disposal the Arkham Advertiser, a list of allies, a directory of businesses and residents, and a map of Arkham. You must follow the leads, consult with allies, and chase down suspects in order to solve each mystery. Twists and turns abound, and sometimes things may not be what they seem. Your sanity is at stake, and your time is limited. Your friend and mentor, Professor Henry Armitage, will be conducting an independent investigation to which your skills will be compared. And that's what we talked about. At the end, you're going to see how efficient you could have taken a path to solve the mystery. That's basically side by side. The professor here is simultaneously solving the mystery and will score against you at the end. Each investigation represents a win-loss scoring system. There are no dice. Players work together, making decisions collectively to complete the most efficient investigation possible. Mythos Tales uses an open-world system developed by experienced writers. So that's what we got with Mythos Tales. That's really, I think, a good cue up. They did a good job on the back of that box queuing up the game. We'll go ahead and get the box open. I don't know if we can have this stand up or not by itself, and it's not look like it's going to, so we'll put it right here. Okay, so in the box, we got our initial introduction booklet here. This is going to list out the goals, some of the rules. You've got, pretty standard, nice color layout. Book's not too long. It's just a few pages. So that's our initial introduction. Next thing we're going to have here is this little Mythos card here, and it's got some things written up on it. I'm sure this is probably one of the artifacts you're going to be using as you solve the mysteries, and that's mainly what you're going to find in here is a bunch of different types of, components and artifacts, much like you would find in, it's more of a story-driven RPG type game. We've got the Arkham's time tracker, so that's going to track the time that we take. It's going to be used for scoring. A few more chits here, your classic magnifying glasses and various things, so we'll put that right here. It looks like you got a nice little Mythos Tales 8th Summit bookmark that was included. That's pretty cool. I don't know if that was a Kickstarter item or not, but I'm sure you'll be using that for keeping your place in the book. There's a small deck of cards here. We have an Arkham, Massachusetts directory. So this is one of the artifacts. It's going to list out all the different locations that you can travel to. Here is the Arkham Advertiser, which is a kind of a fake newspaper that you're going to be able to use as you go through the game. Here is a giant map of Arkham, and it's made of kind of a very thick, almost wax-coated paper. usually these are harder to rip, so I'm glad that they did this wax coating paper. But this one does feel like if you grabbed it, and I mean, you could rip it. It's not like your mighty wallets that are out there, but it does have a wax coating to it. So here's your map. You can keep that folded up. I think another cool thing to do with this is to get yourself, depending on how much you're playing and if you have the space for it, and you're not obviously traveling with it, you're just going to have it at the house. What I've seen people do with these to keep them in good shape, get yourself a poster frame, a very, very flat, very low profile plastic. I wouldn't go with the glass. I just get the plastic front on it, and you can put this right in that and lay that right out on your table, and you don't have to worry about messing up your map, because that's obviously a pretty key component to the game. You've got your investigation record booklet. So this is a booklet, looks like it's fairly open. You're going to be taking all your notes in this. You can see there's some areas to take notes as you go through playing the game, recording, what's happened, what you've done so far. The Faceless Expedition. So this looks like a book that is going to run you through the various different areas of the map. So the map is all numbered, and there is some color coding on here for various things. But you're going to find, like, let's say U68 on this map. Let's say that we were traveling there. You would go open this book, and you could go to U68, and there's some information here on U68, what it is, what you might find there. Again, I'm not going to read any of that stuff because I don't want to spoil anything in this game for anybody. And then the last thing that's in here, and I believe the retail edition comes this way as well. I might be mistaken on this, so if anybody knows for absolutely certain, please put it in the comments. But the Kickstarter edition came with a hardback. So you got a nice hardback book, and this is going to be the core component for the game. So you're going to open the book, and this is where you're going to really get the cue up to maybe some of the things you're going to be experiencing. Each one of the various cases are listed here in the table of contents, and there's kind of an introduction, H.P. Lovecraft introduction here. They got some really nice artwork at the beginning of each one of the cases. So here's the artwork. I will show this for A Grain of Evil. And each one of them have something like that. So you got a nice piece of artwork to kind of start it off. And then it's essentially going to go through the queue up of that investigation. What's the point? What are you trying to solve? What's the mystery? It's going to indicate what types of components you're going to need to solve the mystery. And then it's going to be very open world. And I like that about this one, that really once the mystery starts, it's your decision on how you want to solve it. Obviously, you're, again, looking for that most effective and efficient route from getting to start to end. And you're going to get to travel around to various different places, and it's going to list those out for you. And you'll get to choose where you want to go, whether it's, hey, I want to go downtown, or I want to go up to the Uptown Park, or I want to go to the Rennie's boarding house for one reason or the other. And then if you go to that location, and I'll just show you quickly, you'll see the book will list out those locations and a piece of text on that location. So, who's ever kind of taking that lead role of kind of moderating things and you can pass that around. I believe the instructions do kind of indicate you'd pass that responsibility around. So you can do that, or one person can just kind of handle the reading, especially if you're playing with, younger adults. You may want to do that if you really kind of want to get into the reading of the text and add some flavor to it. But, kids like to do that too as well. So, to each their own, however you want to play the game. But you would go to the, let's say, D67, and you would read through that text. And then, essentially, that's what most of what's going to be in the book for each one of these cases is going to tell you, okay, when you get somewhere, this is what's going to happen, and this is what you're experiencing. See, at the very end, they highlight the pages where they're going to get into the questions as well as the scoring and the solutions in yellow. I'll show you it's yellow, okay, versus your standard, more of your kind of your cream-colored page. So they call that out in yellow at the end, so you know when you reach that area not to go any further, because obviously there is a last page where you'll still be working with, and they don't want to put those solutions right there, but they do indicate, hey, yellow, when you flip this page, you're going to get into the solutions and the scoring. So again, it's an open world book. You can play this in. I'll show you this real quick. So here's the flesh and blood artwork. So you can see, just looking at that artwork, it kind of gets you excited and wanting to figure out what this mystery is going to be about and what you're going to have to solve. So that's Mythos Tales. That's as far as I'm going to go into this, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody as you go through the game. You will see that it is a very engaging game. It's a very fun game. I do recommend it. But if the horror experience and story really isn't your thing, again, it's H.P. Lovecraft. It's not over the top horror, but it's it might be a little too much for some. But I think most really enjoy the H.P. Lovecraft series and games. And I know that I enjoyed it. So I do recommend picking this up from 8th Summit. If you're into the H.P. Lovecraft stuff, if you're a big Arkham horror fan, I do definitely recommend picking this up. Click that like, hit the subscribe below to join the team. This has been the McGuire Review. See you next time.